FT presented by Fox One. Happy Monday to everyone. Ready, Kratz, for 3 straight World Series days?
No days off. I don't have to sleep between any of these games. I can just stay up for 3 straight days, and I can beat the sports equinox.
How about the everyday Louis equinox? Will Varland pitch in all 3? Let's preview the game coming up.
And I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free.
FT Live, baby, on a Monday. World Series Game 3 pregame show, and then we'll have the postgame show after that one concludes. So, AJ, you stole the show at the end of our postgame show on Saturday night in Game 2 when you talked about Addison Barger's pull-out couch situation. We did get quite a number of comments, but one that stood out to me, Bobby wanted you to know we are there. He said, I have an American leather sofa bed, no bars, no springs, 4 inches of memory foam.
Wow. Wow. Good for you. I mean, we salute you. You were there.
America.
But I mean, yeah. I mean, you said America, not Canadian, right? So we're good.
True. So I asked him, I didn't get a reply yet. I was like, where did you get this? We'll see. We'll see where these magic sofa mattresses are coming from, because for context, you can watch back the post game. It was good. But AJ brought up Barger at the end and how he was sleeping on the pull-out couch for a couple nights in a row. He did it the night before the Grand Slam, and then he did it the night after. But that is now done because, as superstition says, he was not victorious in the next game, and he was not successful personally either. So anyway, let's preview the matchup.
No, he was not. No, he was not.
No, he was not. His team was not either. Maybe Yamamoto slept on a pullout. I doubt it. I think he's
no. He might have slept on like a bed of nails or feathers. He probably slept on a bed of feathers and had like 4 guys massaging him the night before, and then after, who knows what he had? Because after that game, he deserves it all.
Shohei takes his own mattress topper everywhere, so I'm sure he's got something. I'm sure Yamamoto's not like, what's that, Shohei? That looks dumb. No, he's probably like, you're pretty good. I'll try it.
Attention to detail. It's important. All right, let's preview.
Carlos Quinn used to do that too.
Yeah.
Carlos Quinn used to take like these weighted ionized sheets, and like, I'm like, Carlos, what are you doing, dude? Just sleep. We're not staying at some random motel, not a hotel, a motel on the street. Like, come on. And he's like, I have to have these. They're weighted. They make me feel whatever, Carlos. Whatever helps you, buddy.
Some guys bring their own pillows. That's a thing too. Kratz, you were one of those guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Look at the size of this head. You think a regular pillow is gonna? No chance. I'll flatten that thing like a tire. Just.
World Series post-game show after Game 3. We have the pretty graphic. Thank you, Mad Max. I like how we have the blue, and then I know, what would you call that other electric spark? Yellow?
Sure, orange.
But for Max purposes, I just feel like it really fits the graphic because he's got 2 different eyeball colors that he talks about, and it's kind of 2 personas. So you're seeing that. Glasnow just rocking the classic baby blues. Game 3 post game will be on right after it ends, and same for 4 or 5, and if there's anything after that. Now, let us charge.
I wish I had that.
Charging the mound.
You want 1 blue and 1 brown eye? Yeah.
That is badass. Are you kidding me? Thing is bad. That's badass. Like, because if you get mad, you can just give them the brown eye, and if you're feeling good, you can give them the blue eye.
You have to be able to do this, and then I can't really do the other side. Can you do both sides?
Yeah, you just close one and you close the other. See?
Yeah, that's good.
Happy, sad. Happy, sad.
Kratz always has something weird and quirky to add to the mix. There you go, Kratz. This is going to be a great clip. Anyway, first off, I just want to say for our Game 3 preview, AJ, I love traditional starting pitching. There's so much bullpenning in the postseason for years now. It is nice to just have a headline. even if Max doesn't go deep into this particular outing, like we have headliners every game so far. And I just appreciate that. So here we go again. Game 3, Max versus Glasnow. I know we touched on this the other day, but John Schneider was kind of pointing to how they want to give Bieber a little extra time. Ken Rosenthal on Fair Territory, that just was live this morning, said he has an inclination that the Blue Jays feel as if Bieber has like one more start left, right? They are asking a lot from a guy who hadn't pitched in a long time, and now he's going deep into October. So Ken feels like that's the vibe. Do you agree?
Didn't we talk about this the other day?
Yeah, but I want you to regurgitate.
Didn't we talk about this with Shane when he was on the show the other day? I felt like this was kind of the thing, right? Where most people have one good one, one bad one. And he was kind of saying, man, I don't know if that's the case or not, but I definitely feels different every start. And so I think, Shane told us this, and then Ken probably and then this is one of the reasons why they went with Max game 3, so he could possibly start game 7. I don't know how long either one of them honestly is going to be out there. It's almost like as soon as somebody gets on base, I feel like in maybe the next 2, I don't know if it's going to be that drastic, but John Schneider is going to have a short leash for both these guys because he knows he's up against Glasnow and Shohei, and they haven't given up a whole lot this postseason. So I don't know if on the road, if they can afford to fall behind, if they do fall behind, if either one of these guys gets in trouble, to let it go and let it build, because you got to win one of these to get back to Toronto.
And honestly, if we look at everything against the Dodgers, when you're talking about just Max, because we're talking about Shane and Max here, like the Dodgers haven't scored a lot of runs. They haven't given up many runs either. I think they're 10-2 in the postseason, but they've scored like 3, just a little over 3 per game, not including the wild card series. So you have to keep this lineup down, and I think they have shown that they can keep this lineup down. I think it's going to be a matter of what is it looking like? Because Max, while he was nails last time out, I think he's going to be more remembered because of the fact that he was yelling at John Schneider, not the 4 walks that he had, not the fact that there were some large chases from the Mariners that you go, are the Dodgers going to do that? Is this Dodgers lineup going to be a little bit better with Pages out of it? I don't know if he's out of it. There's a lot of things, but I agree with what AJ said, but I also am going to stick to what I said before, that I think their bullpen's fresh now. Their bullpen's fresh. They can go with Max, and Shane tomorrow, in my opinion, probably going to give him a little bit more length. I think there's hope that he would give him more length, and that would be the middle game of a 3 games in a row. So who knows what their really reason is, but to ask Shane Bieber to come back in game 7 after throwing game 3 might have been too much. So good for the Jays for going this route.
And within your answer, you brought up another decision. So I'll ask you guys before we get an official answer. And even if it doesn't happen today, should it happen another game or 2 from now, if we don't see more on offense from Andy Pages? I know he had a line out and a base knock in his last game, but overall we're at 4 for 43, no walks, 11 punchies. Plays pretty good D, but I guess they could. There's a few things they could do. AJ brought up moving Kike to center and then Alex Call coming in. Or did he say Call to center? He was adding Alex Call to the mix. And Doc said change is on the table for Pages, but he wanted to see where he was at mentally and physically. What do you think? Do you just keep rolling with Pages and hope that he eventually catches fire?
I just think you roll with them right now. Call is brought in to hit lefties, and they're facing righties. Maybe a pinch hit for Pages if a big situation comes up, but I don't think that you're going to start. Your defense goes down too much, because then who do you put in left? You put Call. I don't know. I just don't think – I don't love Kike in center. Not that he can't do it. I love their defense. And if I'm Tyler Glasnow, I want my best defense behind me, because the ones I don't strike out, they're usually going to hit fly balls, and I want guys out there that can go get it. And Pages is pretty good in center. Hit him 9th, dude. Let him hit him 9th and just see what happens. This was Andre Jimenez didn't have a great year. Yes, he hit the home runs in the LCS, but before that, he didn't have a great year. He was in there for his defense. It's okay every once in a while to have a defense guy,
especially in center field. And Kratz, for me, some of the Pages at bats that I've seen are not bad. And Clint Pasillas on Dodgers territory put it well. It's like you'll get a 5, 6, 7 pitch AB, and then on 3-2 he just wildly chases. But you're like, he had really good takes and some good swings, and then they just get him at the buzzer, right? Like he's been a guy that you can put away. Do you agree?
I would agree, and I would not say these guys are in the same category. But you watched the game where they're facing Gausman, and guys weren't. I think it was Gausman. They weren't striking out much. The Dodgers weren't striking out much until Teo came up, and then it was like Teo was kind of doing his own thing away from the team approach, and he just couldn't not swing. And so it's like, this is what happens in the postseason. You always know that you're kind of in an 0-2 count, no matter what the count is with Pages. Or you always know, as Gausman facing Teoscar Hernandez, okay, I know he's going to chase at some point. I know he's laid off of that splitter, but we're going to go back to it. So are they kind of exploiting him? Yes. But what is the Dodgers' superpower? Dodgers' superpower right now is pitching. And if you take away even a little bit of that, is there a play that Pages needs to make in center field? To me, if he were playing left field and he was struggling offensively, wipe him off the board. See Alice call. I just have a tough time taking my shortstop, catcher, or center fielder out of the game when things are going well for our pitching staff.
I like it. Okay, let's get some more perspective on this series from our guy who's been on the scene. I mean, we have a few of those, but I'm talking specifically about Kevin Pillar. We're going to get his take on the Blue Jays component here. It's 1-1. I feel as if the Dodgers are leading in the series because of the pitching setup the next couple games, but it is 1-1. Blue Jays have hit well on the road. We'll see what KP says coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. These businesses are what make the neighborhood the neighborhood. You and I are both in Orlando, and I see Square all the time at those awesome farmers markets around town.
And a lot of restaurants in general just have this to where they have the little thing plugged into their phone and you stick your card in it and wham, bam, we're out. It's cool. It's a way for local businesses to make money and make it easy on not only them, but also on me, the consumer, because Lord knows I'm not making or selling anything.
No, and it's a tap or on your phone, you double click.
You can even insert your chip if you want to, swipe it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's changed the game. You can go to square.com/go/foul to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Again, square.com/go/FOUL to learn more. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Get after it, FT fam. Guys, I just learned something the other day that I think you'll both appreciate. AJ, do you know how many team meetings the Blue Jays have had this year?
I hope 0.
0.
I hope the answer is 0. Good. You know why?
You're right. There were stories about it because the other day after game 1, after they won, writers found out that they were chatting, and Blue Jays players and coaches made sure the writers didn't write that it was a team meeting. They said it was a 1-minute-ish congratulatory conversation to tell everyone we deserve to be here. Technically, that's a meeting in my mind, but anyway, and especially if it was a few minutes. No, maybe not. But anyway, they wanted to let everyone know we don't do team meetings this year because we haven't had issues like that.
You know what Ozzie Guillen used to say? Good teams win, bad teams have meetings. So they are a good team. They've won, so they don't need any meetings. Team meetings are, other than to get a good chuckle out of me, most of the time team meetings were like, okay, this guy, what are we doing? Players stand up and rah, coaches throw the spread. Like, come on, man. We're professionals at this point. It's not that deep, guys.
I can't wait till Salvi comes on. We'll talk about our one-team meeting after we got in 3 bench-clearing brawls by the end of April as a team, and then Ned Yost called a team meeting. Anyway, it'll be a good Salvador Perez, so put it down in your notes. And whenever Salvi answers my FaceTime call, he'll come on.
I heard about this. Heard about this story. I'm excited. All right, our guy Kevin Pillar is here. He's hustling out there. He's doing a great job. You can hear him on pre and post on Sportsnet and doing all kinds of things. Radio hits. He's on with us. KP, good morning to you. And what do you think so far heading into this game 3? Like, are Blue Jays, not fans, are the Blue Jays pleased with what they've seen in the first 2? And how do you like the pitching, the way it matches up in the next 3?
Man, you guys almost had the perfect transition before the commercial. You were talking about guys who can get to 2-2 with the best of them, get to 3-2, and then just swing at some BS. Felt like you were talking about me.
I would never.
Good at bat, KP. Good at
bat until I got 3-2. I think there was like talks about Dave Roberts trying to like tell Andy Pajes that it's always a 2-2 count, so that there's a psychological difference when it's 2-2 versus 3-2. So maybe he makes an adjustment, maybe he doesn't. But I love that you're fighting for defensive center fielders in there and not trying to, rock the boat a little bit, because, playing good defense is important in the postseason. But to answer your question, yeah, I think the Blue Jays fans are thrilled. Obviously, you get off to a game 1, kind of a blowout. And, Blue Jay fans maybe thought that was kind of what to expect. But I think people around baseball probably, what happened in game 2 is probably the more likely scenario for what happens in this series. I think you're going to see good pitching. I think you're going to see, timely hitting. I don't expect there to be blowouts, but I think the Blue Jays got to be really happy knowing that they can get to a guy like Blake Snell, who didn't have his best stuff, but, you can only face the pitcher who's on the mound that day. And then, I think it's kind of easy to, go into the clubhouse, get on the plane and look forward to game 3 when you face a guy like Yamamoto, who was just on. If he wasn't on and he was able to kind of navigate the lineup, throw 9 innings, but every person that stood in that box probably is coming back and being like, he gave me nothing to hit. He executed his pitches. He did exactly what he wanted to do. And, both of you guys were in the box. Sometimes when you face a guy who's just cruising, it's a little bit easier to, swallow your pride and just be like, I got dominated. And I feel like most of those guys in that lineup probably felt that way.
Well, that's because they did. They didn't feel that way because they did get dominated, KP. I mean, Yamamoto was filthy. It happens to everybody. It happens a lot in baseball when you face a really good pitcher. But speaking of happy where they are they happy with the way the pitching matched up? Because I think if you look at, again, we're talking on paper here, Scherzer versus Glasnow, Shohei versus Bieber, and then we get the game 1 matchup again, you Savage and Blake Snell. Are Toronto Blue Jays fans happy with the way it matched up? And what kind of leash are these pitchers the next few days going to be on for the Blue Jays in order to they have to win at least 1 to get it back to Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a perfect world, they would have probably kept the rotation the same way. But, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Kevin Gausman, who really made what he felt was the best decision for the team, with him coming out of the bullpen in game 7 and not being able to pitch on full rest. I know it's his first World Series, and he probably wanted to have the honor of pitching game 1, but he felt like it was best to keep Savage on his 5-day routine and also allow him that extra day, which allowed him to go deeper in the game. He was outstanding. And you guys talked about it too. It feels like it's a 2-0 Dodgers leading because of how good Yamamoto was in game 2. But Kevin Gausman was matching him pitch for pitch until the 7th inning, and he ran into a 3-2 count and missed up with a fastball to Will Smith, who hit one out and made another mistake up and away to Will Smith. And then after he came out of the game, the bullpen kind of gave up a couple runs. But I mean, that was a 1-1 game going into the 7th inning. But yeah, I think they had to make a decision, for game 3 and game 4. I think they like Max in game 3 for a couple reasons. I think he's obviously familiar with this environment. He pitched here earlier in this year. And then obviously, as you know, the first game in Dodger Stadium is going to have that extended ceremony, the anthems, the lineups. I think Max is maybe a little bit more comfortable navigating that, but I think it also sets Max up for, the potential of pitching game 7. And I think you guys nailed it perfectly. I think Bieber has done everything he could do up until this point to allow him to keep pitching, but he's coming off Tommy John quicker than most guys have coming off Tommy John. I think he's kind of, at the point where, maybe this could be his last time pitching this year, and he's going to go out there and try to take it as deep as possible in game 4. But I think it would have been a lot to ask for him to come back for a game 7 if there is a game 7. I think Max is maybe the guy who's maybe even though he's older, he missed a lot of time this year with some different stuff. I think he's got a little bit more, got a couple more bullets in the chamber than maybe Shane Bieber at this point.
All right, talking about Max. What's more important, how Max throws, or is that just across the board? It really doesn't matter how he throws. He's coming out after the first time through the order. Or is it how the offense comes out? If they give him a 3-run lead, does John Schneider extend that leash a little bit? Or is it a fear in the Toronto organization that we're just not going to push Max too far because we saw how he actually threw against Seattle?
Yeah, I think all those things are a factor. I mean, I think John Snyder's been really open about what happened a couple years ago and the Kikuchi Barrios situation. And, from an outsider looking in, and obviously someone who's maybe gets a little bit more information, he does have the freedom to make some choices. And there's some decisions he's made where maybe you scratch your head. Then there's some decisions where you're like, yes, he's finally going against the book and the analytics. And then it came back to bite him in the butt. I mean, Kevin Gausman, there was no one in that stadium that thought Kevin Gausman should come out of that game. He had retired 17 straight. He had a low pitch count. But then the old third time through the order kind of nipped him in the bud. And, I don't think anyone in that stadium until he gave up those homers were like, oh, why are you letting him go through the lineup 3 times? I think he's learned a lot in his time as a manager. I think he has complete support from analytics, the front office, to go out there and make the best decision. But I think all those factors play into what happens tonight. Do you allow Max Scherzer to go through the lineup a second time, a third time? I think that's so dependent on the score, how Max Scherzer looks. If the Dodgers are able to if the Blue Jays are able to come out and score some runs early and give Max a little bit bigger of a cushion, much like you saw in Seattle, I think his leash is a little bit longer. If the game gets a little bit tighter, are they going to kind of remember what happened in game 2 with Gausman, who was cruising? And do they go by the new book of he's not going to face these guys for the third time? I guess we're going to find out. I mean, I think it's really going to be determined on, what Max Scherzer we see, and then, what does the scoreboard look like?
KP, did anybody discuss what happened in game 2? The big thing, the Jonas Brothers concert that broke out in the middle of the game for anybody knows why reason. Like, does anyone think that maybe that's why the Blue Jays lost and Gausman maybe lost a little bit because he had to sit there a little bit extra? I don't know. It's kind of crazy that they're like, hey, we're going to stand up to cancer, which is always awesome. I love the stand up to cancer thing with MasterCard. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, out in right center, the Jonas Brothers are going to perform a song. So we're going to wait 20 minutes. Like, was that one of the weirdest things you've ever seen?
Yeah, it was weird. Just, given the fact that, it's this very somber a moment where, if you've ever, been around someone or know someone or someone within your family, cancer is obviously a thing that, affects a lot of people. And, I have a great friend and colleague and, Jamie Campbell, who went through cancer. Buck Martinez went through cancer. So, a moment for like a lot of us in the Sportsnet family. It's a very emotional moment. We had people within our, staff too that have family members going through it. It just felt out of place to have the concert go on right after, which was an additional break. In hindsight, maybe they could have had the concert, but maybe that was the time when, the team took the field. Maybe that was during that commercial break where, maybe they're performing while the guys are warming up. But it did end up being this really long break. It wasn't really discussed in the moment, but I think a lot of us kind of have, had a chance to kind of look back and reflect on it. And he was able to get through that inning following it, but it just seemed out of place, and maybe it did have effect on the players. The game was so good, so competitive. It had such great flow to it. And then there was this long extended break, and it just kind of felt a little out of place given how the game was going to that point. And, knowing Kevin Gausman, being around him, getting a chance to work with Caleb Joseph that caught him for many years and was in the clubhouse with him. It was very, he's not a guy who's ever going to make excuses, but, we've all been there. It's something we'll never make an excuse, but it definitely, I think, affected the way that the game was going, the way both starting pitchers were just kind of going out there, getting into a groove. And, hopefully it's something that maybe Major League Baseball kind of maybe learns from and maybe decides not to do it, or maybe they do it, like I said, as kind of that commercial break while the players are on the field getting ready for the next inning.
Is the Dodgers offense good? When you watch them and you look back at how much they've scored in the postseason, I think they've just averaged just over 3 runs per game. Are they actually good, or is it something that you sit there and you go, maybe this offense just isn't going to start clicking in the postseason?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Obviously being at the stadium and being able to look up at the scoreboard and you see the lineups, you see the OPSs, you see the names. If you look at the names, and if we were playing in a silo, you would say the Dodgers lineup is better than the Blue Jays. But when you look at the numbers following their names, pretty much everyone in the Blue Jays lineup, 1 through 9 has a better OPS. I think at this point you have to go off of recent history, and not the back of the baseball card. It's what have you done for me lately, especially in the postseason. And I think right now the Blue Jays have a better offense. I think they have a more complete offense. I think there's much more balance up and down the lineup. The way that the Blue Jays lineup flows is a lot different than the way the Dodgers lineup flows. I heard you guys talking about, Page's at the bottom and Teoscar in the middle of that lineup have a slightly different approach than, everyone else in that lineup. And when you don't have this 9-on-1 attack, this collective approach, it's a little bit easier to navigate through that lineup. And I guess I would ask both of you guys. You guys were 2 guys that sat back there and navigated lineups for a living. I mean, whose lineup would you rather face right now? One that feels like it's a bunch of individuals with the baseball resume and the back of the baseball card, who kind of has their own idea of how they want to attack the pitcher, where you have 9 guys that are all pulling on the same rope, making it really, really tough for you to get to the next guy. I mean, I guess it's a better question for you guys to answer.
I mean, I'd rather face the guys you can strike out and pitch to. The guys that don't strike out are the ones that are pains in the ass, right? The guys that put the ball in play, the guys that put pressure on you, those are the ones that you're like, gosh, they foul a ton of balls off. You're like, man, we just strike out already? Like, just get this bat over. There were times literally where I was catching, I'm like, can we just get this at bat over with? Because foul ball, 1 through 9. You're like, geez, next thing you know, you look up and you're in the 5th inning, your pitcher's got 85, 90 pitches. Like that. And if you get guys, listen, home runs are cool. And this is one of the things why I think we've learned now in the postseason over the last few years, KP, is if you have a team that puts the ball in play and can hit home runs, they're tough to beat in the playoffs, right? Yes, home runs are great if you have a bunch of guys that hit home runs, kind of like what the Yankees have become over the last few years. You can pitch to them, and if they don't hit home runs, they're pretty easy outs, and you can get through them quickly, right? But the Blue Jays can do both, and the Dodgers have been able to do both. It just they don't have a lot of guys going right now, and that's a credit to the Jays pitching in the first 2 games, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Blue Jays, being around them and being around the hitting coaches, I think they were able to kind of almost reverse engineer what they've been able to do in the playoffs. I think they early on in the season, they preached this very collective approach, contact. And I think, as they were able to advance in the season, obviously get to the point where they're at is, they understand that they have these separate tools in their bag. At any time they could bring out, the 8-iron, the 9-iron, the pitching wedge, and, just put the ball in play and, take your hit the other way. Once you have that as a foundation and you start to encourage guys, hey, maybe early in the count, let's bring out the driver. Let's take a couple shots early in the count, because we know ultimately we can go back to who we are as a team and just put the ball in play and fight pitches off. So you have to give a lot of credit for, the new hitting philosophy that was brought in, but you have to give a lot of credit to the players to be able to buy into this, because we both know this is a OPS, get it done league. If you want to survive, if you want to make tons of money in this game, you have to do it a certain way in order to get paid. For these guys to understand that, okay, you're telling me that I not necessarily need to slug early on the year, but we need to buy into this team approach that is going to make it hard on pitchers. And as we kind of establish that, then we can start to, turn our focus to slugging a little bit more as a team. And, I wish it was as easy as, John Schneider kind of made it seem when they flew to Seattle and he talked about his team needing to, what was the quote he used? Less jabs and more uppercuts. And I mean, certainly from that moment on, I think they lead, all teams in the postseason. Obviously they played more games, but slug, average, OPS, all those things. So, credit to the players, credit to the hitting staff, the collective group here of being able to, I guess, get guys to understand if you put the ball in play more often, you're probably going to slug a little bit more. They're just playing the odds. If you advance the ball in the right direction, you have a greater chance of, slugging and getting on base.
Hey, KP, what did you see from Bo Bichette in the first two? Obviously, he didn't start in the second one, just appeared briefly. But it sounds like, obviously, he's in the starting lineup for game 3. They're going to potentially try to get him in there a little bit more. I mean, now you've got 3 games in a row. There is a clear-cut difference in offense. So what would you do, and what do you think happens over the next 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they did, I go back to when I found out he was in the starting lineup. I was a little bit shocked that he was in the starting lineup. I thought he was going to be a guy that was going to make the roster. They had a spot on the roster that was kind of being utilized by someone that more than likely wasn't going to play unless it was emergencies. I felt like Bo was going to be a guy that was kind of there as a decoy, but good enough to kind of pinch hit. Bo Bichette's one of the best hitters in baseball, regardless if he hasn't played in 6 or 7 weeks or not. Like, he just knows how to have a professional at bat. He was born to be in the batter's box. Think about his dad, how the way he grew up. He's just one of the best pure hitters in baseball. I felt like he was going to be used as a guy off the bench. Do we go to the lefty? Do we go to the righty? How do we want to kind of navigate once we get into the bullpen? But they felt like he was good enough to play second base. And obviously you saw what he was capable of. He made this unbelievable play up the middle, a play he probably hasn't made since he was in the early minor leagues. But Bo Bichette is a baseball player. He's an athlete. You just put him on the field, he's going to figure out a way to be successful. Coming back from 6 weeks off, you have to understand it. It's not as easy as, hey, just go out there and play. Like, normally guys would go on a rehab assignment and they would kind of have this slight maybe progression of, 5 innings, day off, DH, 7 innings. The fact that George probably isn't 100% either and hasn't played the outfield in a long time makes some decisions a little bit tougher on them. But, I mean, credit to Bo going out there, giving him six innings on day one. Probably could have played longer. Fortunately for the Blue Jays, that game got a little bit out of hand. He was able to get some rest. To go back to back was probably a lot to ask for him, but the fact he was able to kind of pinch hit, hit a ball really hard too, is just kind of setting the foundation for what I think is going to happen moving forward. And I think he's going to be in the starting lineup today. If he has no setbacks, how he bounces back, maybe they find a way later in the game, 7th or 8th inning, to pinch run or to bring someone in for defense. But I expect the training wheels to be coming off here soon. Is it going to be as soon as tomorrow? I don't know. I think kind of the way the scoreboard, the outcome of today's game, are they up 2-1, down 2-1, I think is going to play a big factor. But for someone that got hurt a little bit later in his career, I'm sure you guys went through kind of that rehab process of, your progression. It's hard to just jump back in a game and play 9 and 9. Having this off day probably allowed him to get his feet underneath the little more. But I think the training wheels are coming off, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him out there for 3 straight.
Okay. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I agree. It definitely helps the offense, no doubt. And you're going to need everything you can get. And it worked out for them in game 1. KP, awesome stuff, man. You're crushing it out there. Hope you're having fun with just a quick transition right to the media life. So keep doing your thing. Thanks for hopping on again. Great insight. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. See you guys.
See ya. That's Kevin Pillar. He's on Sportsnet pre and post. He's with us. You'll hear him at times in the offseason too. Be right back. BetMGM locks. Looking back at Friday, AJ, I got like 8 texts from Kratz. Like, how did you get 6.5? I got 6.5. At one point, the line moved, and then it moved up to 7.5. Maybe as we found out, Bo was in the lineup, and maybe a lot of people were hammering the over. That's probably what happened. Didn't end up mattering. It went over 14.5. So we were good regardless. But he was like, how did you get that? I got it. Okay. Anyway, everybody else. Yeah. Hey, 12:02 p.m. I was in the car. I stopped to get gas, and I did my lock. Anyway, money bags
on Friday. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, everyone else sucked. I didn't suck.
I know. They all sucked. It's a team game, Scott.
Okay, so how are you going to get the team back on track, AJ? Do you want to start us off for game
I'm going
3?
Tyler Glasnow over 5.5 punchies against the Blue Jays. I think he pitched against them earlier. He had 8 or 9 strikeouts this year and 8 or 9 last year. Flip flop, one of the two. So I think he gets over 5.5. The Dodgers this year, contrary to other years, are riding their starters a little more. I mean, I wanted a little better number, but it's minus 135, so I'll take it. But I wish it was a little bit lower of a number, but I'll go with it.
Wow, minus 135. That's steep for you.
I tried to make parlay, but I couldn't find a good one that I could get into the pluses with, so I went with that one that I think is a lock.
Okay. Kratz?
I got Max Muncy over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, and it's coming out at plus 110. I did like before it moved, Max Scherzer was at 4.5. I like the under on strikeouts to parlay it, but it moved to 3.5. Now 3.5 feels a little but.
Okay, and why Muncy?
Because Muncy's going to walk. His history against Max, he walks. And I think he's going to get a walk against Max and probably not see him the second time. And that bullpen's going to come in and throw some speed balls. So Max murders some speed balls.
Okay. I like it. We'll do Pap's pick a little bit later on. We'll do mine as well. And we know Brad Paisley is going to do the U.S. national anthem in game 3. I think we just learned that. So that'll be cool. That's what he said on Bryce Harper next.
Oh, Canada. Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's set this up. Dave Dombrowski, end of season presser. It's an hour plus. He gets asked one question about Bryce Harper. He basically said this wasn't an elite year for a superstar player. Freddie Freeman caught strays for no reason, but he's okay. He's in the World Series. He's just as good as ever. Dave Dombrowski comes on our show and says a lot was made about nothing, and he thinks he's great. And there's absolutely no truth to BS trade rumors that were floated out there, barely even floated out there. And it ran wild. Bryce actually replies and said, I've given my all to Philly from the start. Now there's trade talk. I made every effort to avoid this. It's all I heard in DC with the Nationals. I hated it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. He spoke to Matt Gelb, who put a story out in The Athletic. Harper is hurt by the comments from Dombrowski and the trade speculation. He also said, all players get hurt. I hurt my wrist this year and missed a month. Of course, I don't have full year numbers. It's disappointed to hear me being questioned about my contribution to the team. Just really hurt by that notion because I love Philly so much. And he goes on to say how, he didn't put an opt-out in there because even though he was advised to do so, he wanted them to know he's going to be there forever. Remember last year there were thoughts that his camp wanted an extension, even though there's a ton of time left. Scott Boras also spoke. I'm paraphrasing a little bit for Scott's team that's probably listening, but Scott, mostly was okay with Dombrowski's comments. He just wanted him to include the fact that he was bothered by a wrist issue this year. Okay, that's fair for Dombrowski to say, hey, he didn't have an elite year. He also had a wrist issue. That's a big deal. Okay, where are we at here, AJ? Should Bryce be pissed at the Phillies? We had Dombrowski on the other day, and he sounded super normal and chill. Like, I love Bryce, and I just said that You know, it was a 125 OPS plus year versus a 180 or whatever he usually puts up.
I don't know what we're pissed about here. Dombrowski never said he was on the trade block, did he? I think someone made that up. I don't know what we're mad about. It wasn't Dombrowski that said it. Dombrowski came on here. Bryce, come on here and we'll talk about it. But, I mean, he came on here and said there's absolutely no way they're trading him. He loves Bryce. He wants Bryce in Philly. I don't understand what we're mad about here. Like, I wish at one point in my, career, the GM or president of baseball ops would have come on and said, yeah, about me, the way Dombrowski talked about Bryce Harper. It was pretty awesome to hear someone talk about another player like that. So I don't know why we're so angry. I mean, Kratz, you're in Philly. You're our boots on the ground there. But, man, I don't understand what Bryce is so mad about. It feels like he got mad over something that was taken out of context and not really – if you listen to what Dombrowski said, I don't kind of agree with why he's so mad.
I think he got a little bit of misinformation. I think he heard what Joel Sherman said. I think it was on a podcast. He didn't say, oh, he's like, I see him getting traded here. He's just saying that there's speculation that he could. It was very, very tame. And Dombrowski, obviously, he came on here and we didn't say anything about, hey, do you think should be traded? Dombrowski brought it up himself. And so I think Matt Gelb got him at the right time, got him maybe some misinformation, or maybe Bryce was listening to the wrong things or like going on speculation things. I think there is nobody that could have come to Philadelphia and endeared themselves more to Philly fans. I think when Dombrowski came on, a lot of people in Philly were like, okay, that's nice. I'm glad he's not being traded. And now it gets re-sparked back up by Gelb talking to him. And, I think now it's time for Dave Dombrowski to finally bury the hatchet here and just say, hey, you know what? Here's what was going on. There was never any trade speculation. That was never from me. A lot of things have, like he said when he came on, kind of taken a life of its own. Comments that he said a short snippet in an hour-long conversation. And my favorite part of it was, which I don't think a lot of people necessarily read, was Boris said, you got to let Harpery, meaning Ferrari, Harpery, when Boris uses those play on words type of things, you got to let him eat. He said, maybe get somebody behind him so the team, he doesn't have the second least number of pitches in the zone seen of anybody in baseball. Like, he's saying, hey, you know what? If you didn't think he did well, maybe get a number 4 hitter that's going to hit behind Harper to be able to protect him in the lineup, which I thought was a cool statement by Boris, selling another one of his clients that probably is going to get $400 million.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get good production out of the cleanup spot. You can look at the numbers, right? Both OPS, or if you weight the numbers, it's even worse for Philly. So, okay, that's fine. That's fair, right?
But Dombrowski did come on. He came on our show and said the trade rumors weren't true. I don't understand. Like, he literally came on here and said they were not true. He didn't have, what else does he have to say? He came on here and remember he pulled out a piece of paper at one point and was like, da-da-da-da, 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 da-da-da, and started reading out all these things. Like, what else does he doesn't have to say anything. And plus, you know what, Bryce? You have 10-5. They can't trade you. So just tell them I'm not going anywhere. And it shut. Nolan Arenado did it. If you have 10-5,
no trade
guess
clause.
what? They can't trade
Permanent
you.
no trade clause with the Phillies. Right?
Yes.
So he said he hasn't spoken to owner or GM or president of baseball ops, whatever you want to call. But isn't this like a super simple Dave on the line? Hey, Bryce, I went and cleared it up on foul territory right after. That's really the only show you should be watching and paying attention to daily. You should go on that show too. Anyway, we're not trading you. We love you. I reiterated that. If you want, I can get the foul territory team behind the scenes to cut the clip and send it to you as well. But in all seriousness, I have the quote that started the trade speculation. And this is how the news cycle is, I don't want to say dangerous, but full of crap nowadays. Joel Sherman is an insider. He reports on news, trades, etc., just like Ken does, just like many others in the industry do, right? That's one part of the job. Those insiders also are commentators and have opinions, and they're allowed to have opinions. They write columns, they go on shows. Sometimes we bring on Ken and ask him for news. Sometimes we ask what his opinion is. That's fine either way. Joel went on his Yankee podcast and said about Bryce, I think this is a player that is angry about the contract he's currently operating under. Would I be 100% shocked if Bryce Harper gets traded this offseason? No. So all he said was, in his opinion, probably based on last year wanting an extension, he thinks he doesn't like the contract and wants to move on. So he actually said he thinks Bryce wants to go, and that's why he doesn't feel 100% shocked. Now, he might have felt 80% shocked, but not 100% shocked if he gets traded. No report, no talking to anyone on that front, right? Now, fast forward, all of a sudden, a lot of the aggregator world looks at this and says, oh, here's an insider saying that he's going to get traded. Come on. So it's a poor job on many people's case, including whoever was giving that information to Bryce, or if Bryce is seeing that online, whatever social media accounts he's following, AJC, that's the part where I think we're lost in translation. Go directly to the source. Go to the president of baseball ops, go to the owner. And like you said, it doesn't even matter anyway with the no trade clause. But on top of that, like, we're taking one sentence from an opinion podcast and we're turning it into this. What I fear is that we're going to run into front office members being so careful about every word they say. I mean, Dave Dombrowski, we mentioned, is a real talker, and he didn't say anything wrong. Now you're going to have front office dudes even more worried about any freaking word that they say because they're worried it turns into this.
Yeah, well, we already have enough GM speak, don't we? I mean, all these GMs that come on here, there's been a few that don't, but how many of these GMs that we get on here that say, they give you the perfect line, right? And they just have a lot of words. They don't ever really say anything or give you any opinion. We don't want that. And the guys that are good, again, Dave Dombrowski came on here and he laid it flat on the table and said, Bryce is not going to be traded. We love Bryce. Didn't need to say anything else. Bryce, we're sorry, but I don't know. I don't know what else you can say. And yes, you're right, Scott. People take one sentence and it makes for clicks, and everybody wants to click. So, hey, Bryce Harper's going to get traded. Click, 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 click. Every person in Philly freaks out. What? And then Bryce probably gets a text from somebody. I don't know if this is true or not. Someone probably texts him and says, hey, Bryce, did you hear the rumors you're getting traded? And Bryce is probably like, what the hell are we talking about? And then he didn't even read the article. He just saw the headline. And then boom, next thing you know, he's got to go on Matt Gelb's show and defend himself, which I appreciate him doing that. But yeah, I mean, he's not getting traded. Bryce, you have 10-5, plus you have Scott Boras. Maybe Scott, if he gets you traded, he'll get you another $300 million, but you're not getting traded.
Thank you. He got duped by clickbait. It takes one phone call, and I'm sure it's happening.
I'm pretty sure he can get Sherman's number too if he needs it. I'm pretty sure that Scott probably has it. Scott Boras probably has it.
I'm sure there's been back and forth already. But again, it was only on a pod. He wasn't reporting it. Last word, Kratz.
Bryce, subscribe to Foul Territory and you'll find out all you need to find out, guy. Just hit the subscribe button. Bryce does it. Everyone else can do it.
Bryce will come on someday, but I think now is the time. But anyway, we'll get to it in the offseason. Coming up next, the Orioles have
if only we had somebody that played with him.
Who was that?
We don't have anybody in this show that's played with Bryce Harper?
Pap? Who are you talking about? Yeah, I don't think that one's going to go well. Although ratings would go through the roof if we bring him on for that, right? The official public 10-year later apology or something like that. Anyway, Ryan Ripken joining us next to talk about the Orioles' new manager.
FT Nation, Foul Territory people, all the beautiful people of FT, what's up? It's your boy Parlay Pap coming to you on this beautiful Monday. Hey, I'm still up money. It's not much, but I'm up money on the playoffs. But look, here's my thoughts on tonight's game. I believe that Scherzer's going to pitch okay. I think he's going to give him enough innings. I just think that the Dodgers are going to eke out a few on them, and I think the Dodgers are going to eventually score more than 5 runs tonight, and I look for it to be 5-3 Dodgers tonight. Glasnow is going to pitch a pretty good game as well. And I'm going to do a 2-game parlay. I'm taking the Dodgers run line at -1.5, and I'm taking the over at 8. So we're going to put them two together. We're getting like plus 200 on it. So let's put 100 on it. Let's get that cheese, baby. Game 3 coming up tonight. Let's go.
Good stuff, Pat.
See?
Giving us the World Series lock. What?
How good would it be if they came on together? See, you know
agree.
you like that idea.
Oh, I love that idea. I think it would be pure gold. Text Pat and tell him to text him. Yeah,
They made up. I thought. Pat
they
told
did.
us
They did.
make up.
Yeah, they did. They're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine now. Anyway, my pick, I'm going with the over. It's 8.5, Kratz. Big difference. 8.5. I'm still going over. -105. 105 to win a hundo. We got Max against a very good offense in LA. We've got Tyler against a very good offense that was just shut down by a pitcher who had all 20 million of his pitches working. Glasnow, a different guy. I think he'll do well, but I could see the Blue Jays getting to him a little bit and riding up the pitch count. And then I think we could have some fun with the bullpens. So I'll go over on this one. There are your locks for this evening. Have fun. Good luck to everyone. And it's the best time of the year to be a sports fan. We've got the sports equinox running, football, baseball, basketball, and hockey all on the schedule tonight. To celebrate, you get not 1, but 2 parlay boost tokens to enjoy on any sport, no matter the sport you choose. Countless options waiting for you with parlay picks. You place the parlay and make this an epic sports equinox. Head to the promotions tab at BetMGM for full pricing and terms. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. What do we know about the new Orioles manager? We'll ask Ryan Ripken coming up. Hey, Ryan Ripken joins us right now, CEO of Ryan Ripken Media, and he's live Tuesdays through Thursdays on his own YouTube show. I catch it frequently for a little dose of what's going on with Baltimore. First time on here. Ryan, great to have you on. How you doing?
I appreciate you guys having me on, and always with news, right? I wish that this news of the new manager broke, between 9 to 5, but that's not how this works in the baseball world, right?
Oh, don't get me started. For many off seasons, we get the same situation, Ryan. I'll let you in on a little secret, okay? Mm-hmm. Owners like to have cocktails late at night on weekends. Often we see trades and not trades. It's more signings that happen. Like last off season, you can look, half the signings happen at like 12:30 on a Friday or Saturday night, East Coast time. So you're catching the owners at 9:30, West Coast maybe, having a cocktail, or an East Coast guy like that. So anyway, look for that. It's something that bothers us frequently. But let's get into that news story that broke late Sunday night. Craig Albernaz is going to be the new manager of the Orioles at age 42. What do you know, and do you like the move?
Well, definitely it wasn't on anyone's bingo card when you got the news last night late that the Orioles were in agreement or finalizing the deal. Now, if you take a step back, fans' reaction is going to be, well, who is Craig Albernaz? Where is this veteran presence manager, or why haven't we heard anything from him? Now, if we continue to roll it back, the baseball side of it, understanding Craig's background, a guy that came from the Rays, obviously was with the Guardians, and in between that with the San Francisco Giants, and a guy with an organization that is focused on little things and, yes, metric-based with the Rays, and has a great reputation. That was the things that were jumping off the page to me. Everyone I've talked to about him really likes him as a communicator, but as well as a guy that they believe is kind of that next up-and-coming manager. And so when I was talking about this for the last weeks here on my show, was the Orioles could have gone a couple different ways. I didn't see the veteran manager just because completely old school. You got to let then that manager, the old school veteran manager, manage how he wants to. And I wasn't sure if that was going to be a fit for the front office. And then it was up and coming next manager, or you stay with Tony Manzolino. And we got that answer last night. And now it's going to be a wait and see. There's going to be a lot of pros and cons, but those were all kind of my initial thoughts and reactions.
Well, why not go old school, Brian? Why not go? You kind of had the new school guy in Brandon Hyde. We saw how that ended up. They didn't win a playoff game. Why not go old school? Why not? I mean, they're not going to bring back Buck Showalter, but somebody that's been around and managed before and has the experience a little bit that can give a little pushback to Mike Elias, because Mike Elias, as you know, there in Baltimore, has taken some heat for some of the things that have happened. So is this a case of, hey, we don't want to go old school? Craig will be on the same team as Mike Elias, and they can work together and try to figure this thing out and how to make this team good again?
Well, it's an interesting question, and because you're looking at what was the questions around this team this past year was, how does this young team take that next step? Do you need a guy that's in there that is going to help show them the way? Are you going to get, quote unquote, more of the old school baseball guys that can be there and create that experienced, been there before type of feeling? And we know this now with front offices when it comes to the management in the clubhouse, in the locker room. It's different than it was 5 years ago, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, where there can't be as much contention as there once was. You kind of have to be aligned philosophically. Now, one thing I want to say for Mike Elias is I do believe this past year he sat there and went, what we have done hasn't worked, and we need to try to be more open-minded. And the number one thing that the Orioles need, and it didn't matter who the manager was going to be, was you philosophically, in my opinion, had to get better at developing these young guys and then teaching them how to go and win the games when things get tough. And I think that's a philosophical thing, whether you bring this manager in or it's being taught. But what's happening is there were so many guys in the Orioles that felt like they didn't have the exact role. There was a lot of the same type of hitters. We know in a lineup, you need the boppers, you need the guys that get on base, and above all, you need to find a way. And I think that there was a little bit of confusion. I think that there was a little bit of uncertainty with a lot of the guys, because the one thing this Orioles team does not lack, it does not lack talent, but I think philosophically it lacks, what do we need to do to take the next step? So I think they're taking the bet that Craig Albernaz, young coach that is coming from the Guardians, who all they do is find ways to win, that he's going to connect with these young guys and help Mike Elias and this front office get the most out of them going into 2026.
So you say that about Mike Elias. Does that mean Mike Elias expects this team to score 7 runs a game to win? Like, did Mike Elias look at himself and say, oh, shoot, we had some injuries. There's just no way that we can – or is he going, whatever, we got Shigano. I really thought he was going to be an all-star. Like, he had money to spend, and in my opinion, he flushed it.
So, yes, you can go back and look at it. Did the Orioles do a good job of bolstering their pitching staff? I think we know the answer in 2025. Emphatic no. I think last year, what I want to at least point out, ownership's first full offseason was this past year. Yes, they took over and everyone was excited in 2024, but they didn't even get the look at, all right, well, what do we have to do? Now the pressure, and even the one thing going back to that manager talk of why I was wondering who it was going to be, I think this job is and Mike Elias' decision on who he hires, the pressure really is on the front office, because the expectation for this Orioles team now in 2026, right? It's not to, let's develop these guys and let's get better. No. It's, you got to compete to win the AL East again, because you did it in 23. You were a top team in 24 where you were holding on for dear life and made the postseason. You got to find a way to get over the hump. And I do believe that they are looking at all different components. And I think the one thing that they have to, no matter what, is they have to over expect, all of the injuries that can happen in the pitching world. And I do believe they're going to be extremely aggressive in the pitching department. What that looks like, I wish I had the crystal ball that's going to say they're going to go out and get a top-end guy. They're going to make a trade. But the reality is there are 3 guys right now on that staff that, for me, on the Orioles, you can count on, or who you expect. Kyle Bradish is going to be there if he's healthy. Trevor Rogers looked really good. You hope he can implement that. And then Dean Kramer, because he eats innings. He's been there. If you can remove the month of April for Dean Kramer, his numbers look insanely better. And then I know that they have Wells and you have Grayson Rodriguez. And I love Grayson. Unfortunately, the biggest thing, Grayson's got to be healthy. So you can't expect that Grayson's going to be ready. So you got to go and get 3 or 4 arms. So this offseason, the most pressure is on Mike Elias. But also, this Baltimore Orioles team, Craig Albernaz has to be ready for this team is expected to win. And not just, we're going to get over 500. No. You got to make some noise and get a postseason victory on top of
it. Ryan, you mentioned the pitching. The guy who leads that pitching for years we thought would be Adley Rutschman. They signed Basalo to the contract extension. He's a catcher. Is he a catcher long term? We don't know. But and you mentioned development. Like the biggest thing when I look at the Orioles, they had Mayo, they had Erstad, they had Rutschman, they had Henderson, they have Holiday, they have all these guys, Westberg, but none of them have become. And Gunnar probably is the exception to this. I'll leave Gunnar out of this, but none of these guys have taken that next step to be the superstar that the Orioles for years. We're not trading this guy. We're not going to trade this guy. We're not going to trade that guy, and it's all been position players. Is Craig the guy to help them say, hey, this is how we take the next step? Is there somebody else they're going to bring in to help these guys? Because to me, yes, you can look at the pitching, but the position player-wise hasn't taken the next step. And kind of the face of that to me is Adley Rutschman, because I thought he was going to be an absolute superstar. And now they have Basayo, who they brought in as a catcher, and they signed him. What's Adley's future, and how can they get these guys to take the next step position player-wise?
Yeah, I mean, that is probably the biggest headline if we're going to really focus on and be specific. And I said this last year going into 2025. With all of the question marks around the pitching staff, how would they hold up? And we know you give up 5-6 runs a game, you're probably not going to win a lot of games. That's just the nature of the business. But my motto last year was you go as far as this young core takes you, and the Orioles' strength last year needed to be their offense, and it was too inconsistent. Whether it was guys being injured, which are things that you can't control, or just in the moment situationally having to carry your team, no one stepped up in that manner. I'm still very bullish on a lot of those guys. Gunnar Henderson, I'm not worried about Gunnar at all. Being around him, I got an opportunity in the minor leagues to play with Juan Soto in the Nationals organization, and then I got to be around Gunnar in spring training, especially 6 weeks coming out of COVID where you can just watch a guy, and you kind of have that oh crap moment. I had that moment for Juan Soto, and I still have that moment for Gunnar Henderson. So I think he's going to elevate his game going to the next year. But as far as Adley Rutschman's concerned, and a lot of these young guys, when you come up through the system and you're told how great you are, and the Orioles didn't have any hiccups until the midway through 2024 for this young nucleus, it tests you. And I think for these guys, how do you handle that adversity? I'm buying Adley Rutschman that he's going to be able to be that backstop. I think Sam Basayo is going to play a lot of first base, and he's going to catch as well. But that's a secured, or it's an insurance policy if that's the case and Adley doesn't work out. But the biggest thing, Adley's got to stay healthy. I thought if he didn't get hurt in June, we were going to see that resurgence. But for 2 years in a row, he's been banged up. So I'm watching that. I do think above all, though, when you're looking at this Orioles team, do you have a veteran guy in that lineup that you can depend on? Because right now, when I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of guys in this lineup that are trying to figure out who they are. We can go to the Guardians since Craig Albernaz just came from there. What's Steven Kwan's role? Steven Kwan, he's a tough out. He's gritty, knows how to put the ball in play, makes things happen. And then Jose Ramirez, what's your job? Get him in. Do that. The Orioles don't have their RBI guys, and they don't have the guys that can make something happen. So I think it's a lot of these young guys figuring it out. But I think they do need one more big bat in the middle of that order that can help stabilize them, because there are still so many question marks and so many young players that are trying to figure out who they are.
I agree with you that I think Gunnar Henderson is a superstar, can still be a superstar. Is there any way that he doesn't play shortstop for the next 3 years? Is there any way that the Orioles have enough? Because I've heard it from scouts, I've heard it from different people in baseball. Maybe he's kind of miscast as a shortstop, and maybe their best shortstop is Holiday. So is there any way that the Orioles have enough gumption to say he's not our shortstop, or are they fully committed and I'll lose my job to Gunnar Henderson playing short?
I think Gunnar Henderson is the shortstop of the future for the Baltimore Orioles. And I know that there's that conversation around, could you have a better fit? Could Gunnar Henderson profile better at third base? And would that help in that conversation? Sure. I think you saw a lot of strides from Gunnar at the end of this past year of what he can do and what he can do really, really well. I mean, defensively, you can argue that last stretch he was the best defensive shortstop down the stretch. I'm not saying that he is, but you can argue of how well he was playing down the stretch. And Gunnar physically, I come from a family where I had a family member that was a pretty large individual, and a lot of people didn't think that he could play the position because of his size and his quote-unquote abilities. He'd have to move. Gunnar Henderson, I think, is in that conversation where Gunnar gets in trouble is not because of his physical ability. It's continuing to learn how to play the position. And I would rather take the most physically gifted infielder, and that is still Gunnar, and continue to work with him because he can make the most spectacular plays. But now the goal for him moving forward is, can you make those in-between plays more routine? Can you take the pressure off of the rest of the group in the infield? And I think that's the evolution of the young player. But again, I believe that Gunnar Henderson should be the guy. And I think the Orioles are looking at him, and they think he's just scratching the surface of how good he could be as the future shortstop of the Baltimore Orioles.
Ryan, first of all, I want to make sure that people know I did say that Gunnar was the exception to this question of not being developed, because I think he's a star. So I want people to understand that I did not say that he was. I did say that Gunnar was the one guy that is taking the next step. But before we let you go, what's the one move you'd like to see him make? Is it starting pitcher? Is it veteran position player? Is it back end bullpen guy? What's the one move? And I know you're going to say starting pitcher, so then I'm going to ask you to give me a name. Would they make a trade for Tarek Skubal? Would they make a trade for someone of that level and give up some of these guys that have possibly been untouchable for so long?
Well, I think every team would say starting pitching, you need it. So I think the Orioles are no exception there. I don't see a move for Skubal. I don't think the Tigers should move him unless it's a king's ransom, but that's a whole other discussion, because the Tigers, they should be competing next year to try to go out and win this whole thing. But for the Orioles, trade partners make sense. I know the Pirates, when you look at them for their needs compared to what they have in the pitching staff, would they finally be willing to give up a guy with control? I know Mitch Keller was a name that's been thrown out. I love his stuff, and it makes sense. Sandy down in Miami looked like a prime candidate, but now the Marlins, they look like they're turning things around a lot quicker. So I just don't know if they're going to go out and get the top end free agent. Ranger Suarez is a guy that I really like, because I like guys that know what they're doing, and they can pitch to what they have. The power guys are great, but you got to know guys that can go out there and make pitches. So do they target a guy like that in free agency? And lastly, though, outside of pitching, I think they need a veteran bat. And actually, before now, or in the past, you felt like they had an idea of who their outfield is, and you really don't. The infield's set. You're going to have Westberg, Holiday, Gunnar, and then probably Kobe Mayo, Sam Basayo, and see what happens with Ryan Mountcastle. You don't know who's going to be in your outfield. Tyler O'Neill has the option, which I expect him to pick up. I think you need a guy, a veteran bat, that when things go wrong, he rights the ship. I really do. And I can't sit there and think that they're going to go after a guy like Kyle Tucker, but they need someone to anchor down that lineup, because so many times last year, the team would get in a funk and no one helped them get out of it. So I would say prioritizing 2 veteran bats, not just one, can help this Orioles team hopefully take the next step. Because if not, oh, goodness. In Baltimore here, it hasn't been pretty this year. If you've been an Orioles fan, Ravens fan, I don't know if the city can take the Orioles having another down year, so to speak.
Well, last one, yes or no? They sweep the front office if they don't make the playoffs this year. I mean, they were the super tankers and then took like an unacceptable, in my mind, step back. 2 misses in a row after all the pain the city had to go through for the Orioles to get to be the Astros. This is not what the Astros did for 12 years. Do they sweep the front office? It sounds like they're not going to hire a GM under Elias this year, maybe waiting to see how the year goes.
I would say unless it's a embarrassing year, I'd say no. Even if they miss the playoffs, I would still say no. I think it depends on how it goes. Now, if they're worse than this past year, then all bets are off and it could definitely happen. But I think it would have to take something so embarrassing for the Orioles to make that move. That's just my gut right now.
500 team, which would be better than this past season. You think they keep rolling with the group?
I think they roll with the group, and then the seat gets hot.
Oh, we're going to have to bring them back on to get into that. Yeah.
By the way, speaking of, I know you brought it up. Have you seen the Dr. Pepper commercial where they have the coach and they're like, hot seats, sit on, and they turn on the flame? It was all over college football. It's hilarious. So that's when you said that the seat will get hot. That's all I could think about when you said that, Ryan. Is that commercial?
Well, now I have a good visualization as well. Now that's all I'm going to think about the rest of the day, to be honest. But I'm glad to come on and talk about it anytime more. Hopefully it's not the case and the Birds are back. Maybe they pull the Toronto Blue Jays. Well, if they did this year, why not? I think that's the best case in Baltimore, but we'll take it day by day. Let's win 85 games next year and then go from there.
They better find their Vlad Guerrero then.
That's right. They've got a core. Yeah, that would be nice. Yes. Well, this was great, Ryan. Great insight. Great to have you on here for the first time. Appreciate the time, and everyone that was asking in the chat too. You check out his channel. Much more on this Tuesday through Thursday live. Thanks, Ryan.
Appreciate you guys.
More beef when we come back. Aroldis Chapman just blasted the Yankees to pieces. This episode of FT is brought to you by Huel. Cheers.
Cheers.
We got a new Huel edition here, the Daily Greens. I've got blueberry, lemon, and thyme. You've got?
I got myself peach and hibiscus. I love peach. This is delicious. Fuel for the go, man. And this is really good for your body. It's really good for your systems. Anything that has greens in it, especially from Huel, is pretty fantastic. This will get you going, a little energy, a little boost, and keep your insides feeling well too.
Yeah, developed by registered nutritionists and dietitians. Few vitamins, minerals, and superfoods. Only 25 calories, 4 grams of fiber, only 1 gram of sugar. That's the goods. Of course, we still love the Huel Black Edition. I got chocolate peanut butter. How you doing?
Strawberry banana is delicious.
Let's go. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the exclusive code FOUL at Huel.com/foul. Use that code and fill out the post-checkout survey to help support the show. Cheers. I got some Huel chocolate peanut butter right now. Black edition. It's very, very tasty. There you go, Kratz. Nice. A little vanilla.
Mine's in the box over there.
I'm about to tear it up tomorrow. Hey, real quick.
I'm going to hide it from you, Scott. It's not going to be in the garage, so you're not going to be able to find it. That's the only reason
chocolate peanut butter slaps.
The chocolate peanut butter is good. I have it hidden everywhere. So, AJ, you're going to have a lot of homework to do tonight. I hid it everywhere. It's like a scavenger hunt. Hey, your thoughts on the Twins manager process here? So Dan Hayes reported over the weekend that they're likely down to 4. There's still a chance World Series ends. They look into some other guys maybe involved in the series right now, but it sounds like James Rowson, Ryan Flaherty, Scott Service, Derek Shelton for the 4.
Derek Shelton would be Rocco Baldelli. Wasn't he there as his bench coach? So wouldn't that be just like going back to Rocco? Kind of, sort of, maybe. I don't know. And Rowson was their hitting coach, wasn't he? Rowson was. They didn't like him enough to keep him. Rowson was their hitting coach. I mean, they signed him to an extension and fired him, so they didn't like him that much. Rowson was their hitting coach,
someone.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, Ralston was their hitting coach for a while. I don't know. I mean, Scott Service, what did he do to deserve? I mean, he got fired from his best friend. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting names. You would think the Twins, like, I know Nick Punto was on this list, but he didn't make the cut. I mean, Ryan Flaherty might be he's a new guy. He's been around. He's been on winning teams, and I like Ryan Flaherty. So I don't know. Maybe try him. Try something different. You got a team that's not going to probably compete, right? Because they're not going to spend money. So why not? I don't know. What do I know?
Okay, I like that analysis. I could see Flaherty. Big hunk of meat. What's the beef? Aroldis Chapman on a podcast in the past 24 hours, Swing Completo, absolutely blasted the team that he spent parts of 7 seasons with, the New York Yankees. And remember, I think this is important context. 2022 left off the Yankees ALDS roster after he missed a mandatory team workout, failed to provide, in Aaron Boone's words, quote, an acceptable excuse for that absence. So here's what he said on the podcast when asked if he would go back to the Yankees, a potential reunion with the Yankees. He said, no way, not even dead. If I were told that I was being traded to New York, I'd pack my things and go home. I'll retire right on the spot if that happens. I'm not crazy. Never again. I dealt with a lot of disrespect there. I put up with a lot of things. I knew that they just wanted to find a way to get rid of me, but they didn't know how. And I just dealt with it quietly, kept playing and doing what I always do. I got along well with all the players, never had a problem with anybody, even the manager. We're friends and we talk and everything. The bosses are the ones who make those decisions. Kratz, you played with him. What happened?
I have no idea what happened, but I was surprised when he was down in Florida and they had a mandatory workout on an off day, and he said, I'll get there for the game. And they said, you're not on the roster. Like, this is a guy that has performed well, and he was on the outs there. That to me, that looked like it was going to be like the end of his career. And now he's probably going to win Mariano Rivera Relief Pitcher of the Year award.
I don't know what happened. I don't know. This seemed like a lot. It kind of came out. I thought he liked it in New York. I mean, he went back there after he got traded to the Cubs. Remember? I don't know what happened. This is Vlad Guerrero said he'd never go there. Remember what he said before he became a free agent? Oh, yeah, mate, I was wrong. I was just kidding. Haha. Like, I don't know. Why
Vlad's got beef.
Vlad does have beef. So does Aroldis Chapman. And you know what? He ain't going to go there anyways, because didn't he just sign another deal with the Red Sox?
Mm-hmm.
The Red Sox ain't going to trade him to the Yankees, so I think he's good for now.
This is his dream now, AJ. Now that it's out how much he hates the Yankees, he is in the dream scenario. One of the best closers in baseball, pitching for the team that is the bitter rival. This is his dream. Now it all makes sense.
Why he had such a great year?
And why he signed with them.
I would love to find out what his other teams that he was going, like, that were offering him contracts, because he was like, wait a minute. Come on, Papi. I can go up against the Yankees. I know who the Yankees hate more than anybody. And I mean, during that 21, 22 time, I had just left there. So there was guys that were, that I knew, there was definitely some stuff that the front office wasn't putting up with. And maybe there were some things that, hey, you know what? We're not putting up with this. We're not putting up with the way you do a certain thing, how you handle a certain thing, which is weird because, as veterans, you can not that you can miss a workout, but as a closer, dude, the guy goes down to the bullpen in like the 6th inning. You need him there for a mandatory workout. There had to be other things. There had to be things that precipitated just that one instance. And they said, you know what, we're going to part ways. And they did. And now he's pitching well for the Red Sox. So it's kind of like a little extra motivation at 37 for Chappie.
This is also not a guy with a fitness issue. He keeps himself in pretty damn good shape. I mean, he's a freaking truck. So, AJ, do you think that, I mean, without knowing the case by case here, Chapman kind of does his own thing a little bit, and the Yankees don't like that style.
Everybody does their own thing, Scott. Have you not watched baseball? Guys don't hit on the field. Guys throw when they want to. Guys go to the bullpen when they want to. Like, this is not a new thing. This is the last 10 years this has been happening. So Shohei does his own thing, right? I mean, they all do their own thing now. So I mean, I don't know. I think, like, it's kind of what Kratz said. Something else probably happened that we don't know about, and the Yankees just were fed up with it, and it just led one. It's kind of like one thing, and it wasn't one thing. It was a culmination of accumulation of a bunch of things. So I don't know. But you know what, Chabby? You had a great year. You can say whatever you want. You don't want to go back to the Yankees. You don't have to. Okay, that's it. They're not going to trade you there anyway, so you'll be fine. But I love it. I love it. Add fuel to the fire of the rivalry. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. This adds beef to next year. Kratz, is there specific timing? Like, are the Yankees stricter about when you have to show up to something? Do you have any guesses as to what would cause this? Or do you just think there were some specific situations that occurred that we don't know everything about? And that's what he was hinting at. He disagreed with them on some things and ended up hating them. And it ended poorly, as I mentioned. That part we do know. We do know 2022 left off there because he didn't attend this workout. That's the only thing we know. Like you guys said, probably more that occurred. Spent a lot of time there too, 7 years. But until we find out what those specifics are.
Like even like, you know, the shave policy and stuff. Like, come on. Like, guys, Scott, you make more of a big deal. You made more of a big deal out of it than any player that I ever played with. Do they mention it? Yeah. But like, there is no strict rules. Booney's very good at like talking to guys about, hey, you know what? You know, it's fine if you do this. Like during COVID, I lived at my house 2 hours away from Yankee Stadium. Like if they were like this strict organization where it's like, hey, you got to do this and you got to be in a team hotel and you got to, no, they just want dudes to come to the ballpark, work hard, and get stuff done. Now, Chappie doesn't lift at the ballpark. Was that part of it? Like he's like, I'm going to go to LA Fitness whenever I want because look at this physique. I'm going to lift the way I want. You know, maybe that was part of it. But I just, we're only speculating, and speculating doesn't get us anywhere. So to me, it wasn't just one instance.
Okay. That's good to know. That's still helpful insight. Can't wait for Yankees Red Sox next year. But first, let's focus on the greatness that we have right now in the Fall Classic. Evan Drellich covering the series and covering Rob Manfred's latest comments about a few things going on in the game, including potential expansion in Canada. We'll talk to Evan next. Hey, it's FT presented by Fox One, and a reminder to everyone that the World Series continues this week. And AJ, if someone doesn't have cable, for example, what could they do? Hint, it's below you.
They could stream and get their free 7-day trial, especially to finish the World Series on Fox One. You get all the sports, you get Big Noon, you get all the shows, you get everything that Fox has to offer. And sometimes next year, if you keep it, you'll get me calling games. So just go to fox1.com. It's a little app you can have. I've watched it plenty of times. It's real easy.
I'm walking by the app. You never played like the shadow game where you could like make a shadow? No. All right.
No, I played baseball.
Being big leaguers, yeah. Anyway, a QR code on the screen, 7-day free trial, fox1.com. While we have a moment, and there you go. There's Brady and company. Thank you. Can we show this tweet from Ben Nicholson-Smith? People want to know what stars say to other stars. Vladdy Jr. talking about his interactions with Ohtani during the World Series. He said they talk in English about family or maybe situations happening in the game. He's always trying to get me to smile. I do the same thing to him. I try. It's just normal. He's a great guy. AJ, have you seen some of the faces from Ohtani? He'll make funny faces at first sometimes. Like when they said, we don't need you. And he was like, ooh.
No, I think he's been great. I think Ohtani's been great. He's come out of his shell a little bit here in this World Series, and it's been fun to watch. What always cracks me up is he hits these foul balls, and he is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry" to the other team. I'd be like, "Man, I hope it hits our best pitcher so that he doesn't have to pitch against us." instead he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I mean, it's been great to see him come out of his shell a little bit. And you can see that all on Fox 1.
That is correct. Yeah, more Ohtani faces. You have at least 3 games left of that. Hopefully, maybe 5 if you're just looking for the good stuff and for this series to go 7. Anyway, Evan Drellich, 30 seconds away from joining us when the TV crowd comes back. Hey, we're back with Evan Drellich, who writes for The Athletic. A lot of business, some CBA talk, what the commissioner says, etc. Right? Lots to get to here with Evan. Evan, good to see you. And we want to start with Rob Manfred speaking to the media. There's a number of topics to cover. The one that I think stood out the most for this series was how he gave a little shout out to Vancouver as he was asked about expansion. You know, we have the Montreal Expos big doc that came out this week too. That was interesting, but he said, "Hey, don't count out the number 3 market in Vancouver." So I wanted to get your thoughts on how realistic that is, or if that's just leverage to push the West Coast teams, potential ones, up to pay more.
Look, if I had to guess right now, I think it's probably a kind of a nice thing to say when you're standing in Canada, where a World Series is being hosted for the first time in 32 years. We haven't had previously a lot of talk about a Canadian city being one of those 2 sites for an expansion team. I guess it's not impossible, but if you're Rob Manfred, there's no downside to that comment. You can, get a little bit more leverage maybe with the Nashville or Portland or Salt Lake City. I think if it were realistic, Vancouver having a minor league team already probably makes the most sense. But I got to admit something here. I'm a New Yorker, didn't grow up that far from Canada. Haven't spent that much time in Canada. Toronto's a lovely city. I don't know enough about the different cities up there. And even it was actually funny when Rob was doing the press conference on the field, when he was answering, I think, a follow-up question about what cities he was interested in. He turned to Shai Davidi, who's, covers the Blue Jays for a very long time, does a great job. It's like, well, you're from Canada. You would know better than me. And I think that's the reality. I can't tell you which market would be better, but I don't see it as the likeliest outcome that Major League Baseball ends up with a second team in Canada again.
I mean, if Montreal can't do it, Vancouver. I've been to Vancouver. It's pretty, but they think Seattle has travel problems. Go to Vancouver. That's even farther away from everything else. So I don't see it. I think it was a cute little piece that Rob said. Oh, where are we? That's why he's like, hey, Shai, what country are we in right here? We're in Canada. Let's throw another Canadian out there because Montreal obviously would be the next one because it's close on the East Coast. But I don't think it's happening. I just thought it was him, trying to add fuel to the fire here of, let's throw another name out there so Salt Lake and Portland have to up the ante, but it's not going to happen. Portland's a wonderful place. I played there in AAA. I played there on the road. It was a wonderful place to visit for a couple days, but I can't see it being a next viable. So I agree with you, Evan.
Yeah, every World Series, whatever city we're in, he gives a compliment to the area, to the owners, and oftentimes, it's not that it's not true, but it's hard to lean too much into that idea right now.
Okay, next up on the docket in your article, 12-team postseason. Sounds like Manfred likes that. I personally like that and hope that they don't add. Now, did you get the inclination that he liked 12 even when they add 2 and it's 32 teams in the league?
That's a good question. That was not asked. My guess is at that point you would probably do something, but that is, again, so many years away. I mean, he keeps talking, he being Manfred, about knowing which 2 teams he wants to add before he leaves, which as of now would be in 2029. That doesn't mean the 2 teams will start playing, right? So you're so far away from that. It's probably a future CBA, not the one they're going to negotiate next year. That said, while you're still at 30 teams, like you want to let in basically half the league. I mean, you could, but 12 is already a lot of teams. And I think I took it as a good sign that they weren't thinking about adding more at the moment, or at least they're not publicly saying that. There's always more money in more playoff games, but at a certain point, you kind of dilute your own postseason product, and I think they know that, and you can't go from, it was only a few years ago you went to 10, right? I think you got to stay put, and then if you want to go to talk about it during expansion, okay.
Oh, but they want the salary cap. Other leagues have 19 teams that make it, and everything. So maybe they do want to go that way. But what you talked about was expanding. Let's take care of Sacramento first. Rob had some comments about how players that he talked to were like, "Hey, it wasn't so bad."
Right. Yeah, we had the early season. I mean, it might have been opening day when Severino was popping off about Sacramento not being up to par. Anybody who walks in that ballpark, as Manfred himself acknowledged, realizes this is a minor league ballpark. It is not what you want, as baseball writers will sometimes often cite to each other, quoting Joe Girardi used to say that a lot, I think. It's not what you want. But what are they going to do? They got nowhere else to go, right? Without rehashing everything that happened in Oakland, this Sacramento situation, I think, frankly, sucks. I think people acknowledge that. It's nice for the city of Sacramento, but it is not what anybody would have wanted. And you just got to deal with it until the Vegas project gets done, hopefully as they expect it will. But that is the thing that Manfred had said for years was, we got to deal with the A's situation, got to deal with the Rays situation, their stadium deals before we talk about expansion. With the Rays ownership change, it looks like they'll have the money and will put together a stadium project in that Tampa area. So whether that's Tampa itself, St. Pete, somewhere there, as opposed to going elsewhere in Florida. And then if John Fisher's project in Vegas works on time, yeah, you could have your two stadiums dealt with by the time you would try to move for expansion. Whether that's 28, 29, whatever. But yeah, it's also silly in the context of like the Marlins. The Marlins, you have teams that are doing so poorly and struggling in this environment to just kind of talk about the cash grab of expanding without looking at the broader context. There's a lot that goes into it, right? You'd rather have all your current franchises in good, comfortable situations before you go and throw two more in the mix.
Evan, first of all, I love this. Everyone said it wasn't that bad. Every player I talked to, every coach I talked to, no, I didn't talk to a lot of the A's players. They said it sucked, okay? Every opposing team that went there said it absolutely sucked. So who is he talking to? I want to know what players is he talking to the A's guys? Of course the A's are going to say that because they're happy to be there. They're in the big leagues. They're a bunch of young guys. Severino was never happy with Sacramento, right? I mean, how many players came out? Who is Rob talking to? Is this just Rob saying things so like it makes the guy who owns the team in Sacramento happy? So, hey, maybe down the road we can talk to him about if Vegas doesn't work, we can try to go there again.
I mean, he is a politician. He does have to think about all those types of things. I don't know who he's talking to. I mean, look, could somebody have said something along the lines of, hey, they tried. I can tell they tried. And, some things are good and other things are bad. Not everybody would have to necessarily throw their arms up and say, God, this is awful. But it is, and I actually give Manfred credit. He in the comment that he made to the little gaggle of reporters on the field, said it is a minor league stadium, which I can't remember if he had made as direct an acknowledgement of that in the past, but that's what it is. And it's not where Major League Baseball should be played. You had two teams in minor league stadiums this year. The Rays obviously were a different situation, but both of them ended up with attendance around 750,000. It's just, it is a strange contrast to have those teams and the situations they're in, and also be talking about, yeah, we're gonna build put a major league team in Vancouver. It's all a ways off, but they need the Sacramento chapter behind them as quick as possible.
What's going to get over the hurdle of allowing Major League Baseball players to play in the Olympics? Because he says he's close, but the whole it's dangerous for players. Can he just flat out say, well, we own the WBC, so after WBC is over next year, then I'll give my answer for the Olympics?
I don't even look at it. I think they're in. I think they believe in the value of the Olympics as something that can boost the value of the WBC. I don't think they look at it necessarily competitively. There are, what's the holdup or whatever your exact question was. 99% of the time in my line of work, the answer is money. It's always money. It's insurance. It's making sure that if you're going to have this long break, is every other player in the majors, what are they doing? Are they being paid? You got to work out all these details of what that extended All-Star break, presuming they end up doing both the Olympics and the All-Star game in a single break, which is, unless something's changed, that is what they're trying to do. And there is a reality that you're going to stretch the schedule anyway to do that. And so one of the things that around the All-Star game this year, I reported on was their conversations with LA28, the organizing body, about making sure there's basically as little time as possible between that All-Star game and the start of the Olympics, because the schedule that came out starts July 15th would be the first baseball game at the Olympics. The All-Star game, if it's a normal year, would probably be July 11th. It's always a Tuesday, right? So that's 4 days in between. You don't need 4 days in between. You need a day of travel, and the opening ceremony for the Olympics is the 14th. So really, if you start the thing a day or two earlier, that probably makes it as efficient as possible. But Erik, it's always money. There's just money to be worked out when you have a project like this, and owners worried about their investments, and there's a long list of issues they got to figure out.
Evan, back to the World Series for a moment. Oh, sorry, AJ, were you up?
No, it's fine. I was gonna say, first of all, Evan, I guess you just don't believe in practicing as a team. You're gonna end that first half, and then you're just gonna throw teams from all over the world together without at least getting together. That'd be tight. So you might need at least a couple days here to at least throw in a little bit of practice. I think Kratz would agree with me, but my question is like, every time you hear Manfred talk, grow the game, grow the game, grow the game, grow the game, grow the game. Okay, look at the numbers for baseball where we're at. The ratings are through the roof for the World Series. The ratings for the DSs and the CSs and everything are through the roof. Attendance is up. Viewership is up. Every revenue is up. And then all we keep hearing is salary cap, salary cap, salary cap. Why can't the two sides just sit down and get together and figure this out so that I can stop answering questions from every person I know about why there's going to be a labor stoppage in 27? Like, does anybody ever ask Rob, like, if everything is going so well, why do we have to have a salary cap? Has anyone asked him that question?
I don't know if it's been put exactly in those words, but it certainly will be coming up. He ducked labor. I think that was probably smart. He's indulged those questions more recently. If you go back to even spring training, he answers when people ask about, revenue disparity in the Dodgers, and he kind of pushed it aside for the moment, which I think was a good idea. I think the answer is you have owners who want this to happen, who have always wanted this to happen, and he has to demonstrate a good faith effort to them to try to get it. I think it'd be virtually impossible for him to go to those owners and say, I'm not even going to try this. I think that's too bad, because one of the things that's not really talked about or looked at as much is kind of the opportunity cost of planning for this. Everybody has to plan for this. Major League Baseball, top down, has to consider, okay, if we're in a lockout, what are we going to do, right? And that draws away attention in any division, marketing, sponsorship, whatever. And I think at the end of the day, there's too much money involved in this sport. It is not a rational decision to, miss any real number of games. I mean, you want to miss a couple games, fine. But in an industry that will probably be about $13 billion combined, going into 27, it does not make sense. I don't think for the owners to hold out and assuming the players are steadfast, we're not going to have a cap. But I think Rob still knows he has to try. And I don't think Manfred is a lot of things. He's not dumb. He certainly understands, I would believe, I haven't asked him this, but I believe the momentum that the sport has and that a work stoppage would be damaging. There's no way he doesn't realize that, which is why I think when push comes to shove, the owners will propose a cap. I am very little confidence at this moment that anybody's going to want to really drag this out for, months where you're in a real work stoppage, where people can turn away from baseball. This is not 1999, 1994, 95. It is much easier to find other entertainment options. It's a bad idea to shut baseball down when things are going well. And it's so obvious to us as observers that I think it must also be obvious to others in baseball as well. That doesn't mean they won't try to get what they want. But you can try to get what you want and also end up playing baseball.
One other wrinkle that I think is worth bringing up now, obviously we're going to have a lot of time to talk about this over the course of the next, whatever it is, 15 months until there is actually at least a temporary lockout. It'll definitely happen. Just for how long does it dip into games, etc. Right? The one part that I think is relevant right now, Evan, is related to what AJ is saying. It's not just ratings here, it's ratings in Canada, it's ratings in Japan, right? And those are all very sellable assets. Something does happen in the US after, what is it, the 2027?
Going into 29. Going to 29.
It's going into 29, the TV deals? I thought it's sooner.
They run through 28.
They run through 28. Okay. So if we have an issue, it would be going into 27. So a year before, and that's usually when you're having those conversations about TV deals. Some people might not know. So the holy grail nowadays is when you can package up all your rights and then work on getting a bidding process going. I think that alone, being such a huge part of any league's revenue, would probably cause all parties to be like, we hate each other, we have a lot of differences, but it's not good timing. So let's just feel a little bit uncomfortable and roll with the status quo for another deal.
I think that's right. I mean, look, in a worst case scenario, because they are a year apart, you could miss 27. I'm not saying they're going to. You could, and you could still end up, negotiating. All right, baseball's back. We got the CBA that we wanted, and now we get our national TV deals. But no, there's no way it is the image you want to plant in the heads, in the minds of the executives at Fox and Amazon and NBC, and go down the list of the potential streaming bidders that MLB wants to court. And MLB a lot of the time, Rob Manfred a lot of the time, I think, looks to what the NBA is doing, and he's been open about this with specifically television, is that MLB wants to replicate what the NBA just did. The NBA got $77 billion in deals. How much would a lockout or a work stoppage that actually drags into the season impact that amount of money? Is a question I think they'll debate and consider, and they need to. Again, all these factors. The owners. If you're a Major League Baseball owner, they're looking at the NBA and going, those franchise values are higher. Look at the NFL and going, those franchise values are higher. And then they look at other arguments around competitive balance, and that's where it gets a little bit trickier in terms of, is it reality, right? And I think I told you guys before, made the point before, that you go to a salary cap, unless the range of salaries is so close together, the Dodgers are still going to be the Dodgers. The Pirates are still going to be the Pirates. And MLB keeps hanging its hat on what it's calling a perception issue. This perception that fans have in smaller markets that the team can't compete. Okay, but is the reality of the fix that it is fixed? Or are you just giving people something that they perceive to fix a problem, but does not actually fix the problem? And so, yeah, as Manfred himself said on the field at Rogers Center, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about labor. And I think largely this is what I will be paid to do for the next year, is sort through this impending mess, which will produce an off-season lockout. And the question is, like last time, are they going to miss games?
Yeah. And my last point here, this happened like 20 something years ago, late 90s, but when they decided on the luxury tax, great. That's a soft cap. The fact that they didn't add a soft floor, I think, screwed over the game and caused all of these owners on the one side, like the Nuttings of the world, to be bad actors. There's no accountability on the other side. In my mind, like we have a soft cap, and that does. And if you believe in a hard cap, that's fine. But we don't have a soft floor for a long time, so we never saw what that looks like. I know that they're not going to give in on that. I understand that part, but Just throwing that out
rea-
there, I do
the
think we
reality
screwed
that
the game up
that
a little bit by not doing that.
if you want a floor, if you're the players, the owners will never grant it unless they get a cap, and they've always gone hand in hand. It's funny. Like every time I write a story about a salary cap, people are like, "What about a floor?" And I think every time I write it, I got to say these two go together.
But we don't have a soft floor and we have a soft cap. That's my only thing that I do think is misbalanced right now.
And here's I think the irony of this whole situation. Let's say the owners don't get a cap, right? If I were a betting man, unless all the players have suddenly changed their minds, and AJ and Kratz would know, it would take a huge amount of missed games to get to a cap. But the owners, if they don't want to miss those games, I bet you will come away with something that makes them happier in a better economic position than they were in before. And that's over time, it's kind of a vice that closes. And, we want a cap. Well, we're not going to give you a cap. We'll give you the Steve Cohen tax. And then it grows and it grows and it grows. And long term, that's something the players have to always contend with is, you're fighting off a cap. But what else are you giving up to fight off that cap?
Right. Having good stuff. Obviously not the last time we will talk about this, whether people like it or not. Thank you, though. Good to see you, man.
I'll ask about that practice. That's a good question, AJ. I'll ask about that. Olympics practice, baseball. All right. See you guys.
Yes. See ya. Thanks, Evan. Evan Drellich, The Athletic, Twitter. Follow him. He's the guy on this stuff. The old card experience was a slow burn, long grind, right? Find the box, find the pack you want, open the pack. Most of the cards, nah, right? You got one that's worth something. Now send it in for grading.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on and on. Oh, you want to sell it? Now you got to put it up. Then you got to ship it out.
Yeah.
There's one solution for that, and it's called
Arena Club, and it's just on a click of a dime. You get on your computer, you type in, get the Arena Club app, go on there, type in, put some money in, and type in exactly what kind of cards you want, and voila, it's a great experience. And I think that's what people miss nowadays, the experience, the excitement of getting a new card. You never know what you're going to get, an autograph card, anything you could think of. Really cool stuff.
You can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase at arenaclub.com/foul. See what gets Todd Father so excited when he gets that digital slab pack. It's like butter, baby.
Butter.
Hey, we're back for 2 minutes. We hadn't gotten to this one yet. The Guardians denied Emmanuel Clase's ask to pitch in Venezuela during this MLB investigation. He's from the DR. They're also not letting him play, and he's apparently suing the Dominican League and the president of that league, and so is Luis Ortiz. But wait, back up. AJ, don't players have to get permission to participate in these winter leagues?
I thought they did. Kratz would have to tell me more. I thought you had to. I thought the team had to okay it. I didn't think you could just go and say, I'm playing on my own. I've never, other than a guy coming off injury, I mean, obviously this is a whole different situation. I've never heard of anybody being declined going if they want to go and the organization thinks it's a good thing for them. Now, if they were hurt or they, played too much, maybe, but this whole thing is weird. He wants to go pitch in Venezuela, but he's not coming back to the U.S. anytime soon if any of these allegations are true. And we just saw what happened in the NBA with all that going down. So I don't know what he's going to do, but I don't know how he can't. I mean, he's technically still part of the Guardians for now, right? Until he becomes a free agent?
Yeah, I think he's been on paid leave the whole time. So you're not getting paid by them and then doing whatever you want. Sometimes Kratz guys are hurt and then the teams are like, yeah, you're not playing in the winter league this year, dude. We got to get you back on the field.
It's a fight. It's a fight that some guys have. A lot of the Dominican, Venezuelan guys, they want to play. Like that's their off-season workouts is to play baseball. And if Clase goes to Venezuela to play, he makes more money because locals in winter ball don't make that much money.
Also,
as much as
I mean, it's
play another country.
Yeah, it's been a long time. If you're innocent, you should be screaming. In the weeds, last thoughts here, previewing game 3, and then we'll have our post-game show after game 3. We can mix in now. Adrian Johnson did not have a great performance. Some Blue Jays fans were pissed. I don't think you were stopping Yamamoto either way. So how do you stop this train if you're Toronto? And if you're the Dodgers, AJ, do you think that Glasnow will get a longer leash than he usually does? I know it's game situation specific, but if the stuff looks pretty good, even if he gets touched up for a homer or, a run here and there, do you have to stick to the game plan if you're Doc Roberts and avoid bullpen at all costs?
Well, their bullpen hasn't been great. I mean, in this postseason, it's been Sasaki, and now with Vesia not there for personal reasons, it's been kind of a hit or miss. So I think Glasnow's got to give him 6. He's gone out there and pitched. And one thing we've learned about the Dodgers and Dave Roberts, they adjust to their team. This year, they're more starter heavy than in the past. They've been bullpen heavy. So what's he doing? He's leaning on his starters more. And I think Glasnow will get to throw 100 to 110 pitches again and get ready if they have a possible game 7. But yeah, I think they're trying to go as deep as they can with starters, because normally in the past, Roberts would have taken out Yamamoto, even though he was throwing a gem, and said, oh, well, 100 pitches is the limit. He let him go over 110. So it's a different Dodgers this year.
Very rested Roki Sasaki, too. Keep that in mind. He could go 2 innings. I mean, I know he's done 3. He could do 3 innings. Like, it's possible, right? This is a tight game, Kratz. And Roki and let's say it's the 7th inning, and that's where they feel like it's Roki time. They could keep riding him out. If they're up a run, they could do 3 innings. Like, he's capable.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Wilson might need to cover his ears, but you don't get to the 9th without getting through the 7th and the 8th. Like, it's okay to, like, Glasnow's not going to give them tons of innings. It's not about the innings tonight. It's what AJ said. I would say that range is probably anywhere from 90, 95 to 110. I think his start against the Phillies, he was dealing with cramps. He was dealing with his hand cramping up. You saw him take his glove off, and he was dealing with that. So there's a shelf life for him, but essentially Glasnow's stuff is reliever stuff. He just gets to throw 100 pitches. So, yeah, I mean, I think if I were to set an over-under, I would say 100 pitches, and I would go, he's going to go under, but man, it's going to be close. They're going to throw him out there. Even if it's like he gives up 2 or 3 runs, 3 or 4 runs, I think they keep him in there.
Keep in mind, sometimes Glasnow is a slow starter, and then he gets ridiculous and dials it in. Sometimes first or second inning is the problem spot, which is the case for many starters. But for him in particular, you can look at some numbers there, and then he just gets on a heater, 3 through 5 or 6. So keep that in mind too.
All the time he walks guys. So if you're Dave Roberts and you're sitting there going, he's got to be perfect. I can't take him out. I can't keep him in there unless he's perfect. Tonight's not the night. You got to look at it and be like, okay, I see, he overcooked that high 4-seam fastball, and that natural cut ran it off the plate. Like, the curveball's never landing in the zone. They're not swinging at that yard dart bounced curveball that I think some teams do. So to me, that's how you got to evaluate it. But he is always going to walk somebody. I would take the over of 2 or 3 walks here, just because that's just kind of where he's at. And can you navigate the lineup and get your pitches where you're then striking out 2 dudes?
Yep. Long rest too, which was great for Yamamoto. And we'll see how it works for Tyler. Hey, if you want to take care of yourself, your body, and everything that goes into health, fitness, and nutrition, Superpower provides Kratz what I would call the pro experience for the everyday person.
100%. Super easy. You get your lab test results back, and you can streamline exactly what you're deficient in. You can say, okay, this is what the results told me. I'm going to go ahead and maybe look for that in a supplement, which they provide. I'm going to go ahead and look at that in my daily workouts, which they give so many different ideas of how to make sure your deficiencies become some of your superpowers.
Superpower used to cost $499. Head to superpower.com right now to learn more and lock in the special $199 price while it lasts. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them, and make sure you mention FT. Your biology decoded, your blueprint activated with Superpower. And there is the scorecard for Adrian Johnson. He ended up at an 87% correct call rate. The lowest rated umpire this season had an average correct call rate of 89.7%. Johnson missed 14 calls. You know, watching this game, AJ, I didn't feel like, oh, this is egregious. But, I mean, there were obviously a few misses. Like, it's not ideal. And there were definitely some misses, both, you know, in zone called ball, out zone called strike, that an ABS challenge system would have wiped away next year. So it just plays to the point from last year. I mean, I said this last week, broken record, but Adrian Johnson's numbers are not up to par for this. It just, they're not.
It wasn't an awful game. I mean, it wasn't the worst game. I don't remember watching that game saying, oh, he missed that call. It was just terrible. I mean, there was a couple that were close here and there. So I don't know. I mean,
they weren't strike threes. That's part of it too. They weren't 2 strike misses from what I recall. That was part of it too.
Yeah,
I'm looking now.
I don't
You
know.
know, I mean, one of them is at bottom of the 9th, Yamamoto versus Guerrero, 0-2 count, strike called a ball. But I mean,
okay. I mean, if you look at it, he went for the Blue Jays, so the Blue Jays fans can't complain.
Almost a run for the Jays.
Right. It worked out in the Toronto favor, and it didn't matter. So just pointing it out, though, just to keep the accountability going. This was the one who was rated much lower than everyone else, and yeah, he definitely missed. But those misses didn't end up proving very costly in the game. Sometimes you really feel it. It's FT presented by Fox One. Slap hands coming up next. Hey, real quick, because we keep getting coaching news. Jeff Passan just reported Antoan Richardson, Mets first base coach, didn't come to terms with the Mets, and they loved him. I know that from some direct sources. I don't know what happened yet, but do you guys think it was like a money thing? I mean, the Mets stole a lot of bases. I mean, look at what Juan Soto did this year. They weren't all garbage time stolen bags. Like Richardson had some of those guys really timed up. What happens when a guy doesn't come back? But it sounded like
I don't know. It's that's a weird one to me. This seems like they go to Carlos Mendoza, say, you got to change coaches, and he was the sacrificial lamb. I don't know, Kratz. First base coaches, they have that big of an argument over money?
I've heard of arguments for it, but I mean, I don't know. You just never think you hear that from the Mets.
Yeah, he's a fun personality. Maybe we'll get him on to ask him about it. See ya after the game.